an average job $20 million project, which is nothing in international terms. Absolutely nothing. And then that really confirmed for me that I was absolutely on the right track with heat, that there was an incredible need to open up the international marketplace for Queensland architects and related design businesses. Why? Benchmarker gave us the evidence that we were not getting our global market share. Not to mention the fact that we can now measure the impact of our programs. So we're measuring the impact of state government policy in action on the industry, on the marketplace. Now, in an economic development department, is that evidence or what? Now, this is not happening in the tourism sector. This is not happening in the food sector. It's happening a little in the manufacturing sector, as Terry would know. So this has meant that my bosses have paid particular attention to the success, and that's how an economic development department measures success, through the economic ROI to the industry. See the beauty of Benchmarker? Pretty simple, pretty good. At the same time, the businesses are all happy because they're getting their financial data analysed, they're getting compared with their peers for the first time. Our business is saying, gosh, I never knew I was spending that much on rent as opposed to my peers. I never knew that I was that unproductive in comparison to my peers. I've got to lift my game here. I never knew that the market, the export market, was in the Middle East and China. I was thinking it was in Europe. I can tell you it's not in Europe. Heat architecture, just as an aside, we're clever. We know that we need to get the reputation and the credibility in the northern market in order to influence buyers in the southern hemisphere market. And that heat is very cleverly designed to do that. Now, so whilst that's all jolly and good, I'll continue with the ups. The ups are industry uptake, industry satisfaction with reports. The downs are there's no national or international comparative data, and our businesses are desperate for it. They just don't want to be compared with their like peers of like size and like activity, like services in the Queensland marketplace, particularly when we're pushing we're opening up the international market for them. They're desperate for national and international comparative data. So we're very eager to work with CCI on doing that. It's really important for everyone's growth. And excellence in terms of benchmarking. The other down is, I've got to be honest here, questionable statistical reliability. So that's why I'm really looking forward to my meeting with Jason Potts, if he's still here. Now we're working with OESR in Treasury, and we're working closely with CCI on working on that one. But that's really important. I've got to feel completely confident that I've got validity in the stats that I'm receiving. Otherwise, I can't confidently spruik like I'm doing today. It's very important. When I'm giving my minister, who happens to be the Treasurer, data for estimates. And so if I get that data wrong, I'm setting him up for contempt of Parliament. It is that important to a government agency like ours. And obviously credibility for the creative industry sector. And it's such an exciting sector. We really deserve to give them that strength and confidence that data is accurate. So as a whole, I'm really supportive of Benchmarker. I'm really pleased to be working with CCI. And there's a lot of interest in the super department called DEDI, Department of Economic Development and Employment and Innovation, from other sectors who don't have access, as I said before, to this sort of mechanism to collect data from their own industries. So we're hoping that once again, creative industries will prove that it's relevant to all other sectors from an economic point of view, just not high growth within its own sector. Okay, thank you very much.
Right. knowing where I am. How do we change slides on this? Where was it filed? Do we know?
Should be on the desktop. Is it on the desktop?
Ah, okay. Sorry.
Top left.
You can tell I'm a Mac user trying to struggle around on a Windows machine. Thank you very much, Lindy, for that excellent basis of grounding in the background on Benchmarker. I'd like to take you through a bit from the CCI's approach to it and why we, let's start off that, why we've moved into doing Benchmarker and its approach. And really the approach, it works because it's an information ecology. It's not just the government saying, give me your data or you go to jail, or researchers ringing up and saying, give me your data, I want to write a paper. It doesn't work that way really very well at all. From my background before I joined QUT, I did a lot of work consulting, and a lot of the research papers that I was working on or basing on were talking about the information poor stakeholders. Industry doesn't have the data about itself. Businesses don't have data about itself. The government departments responsible, as we've heard, don't have the data. And when I joined QUT, I had all of these research questions I wanted to ask about innovation, about formation cycles, failure rates, stuff like that. There wasn't the microdata available that would actually allow me to answer those questions. So there was an awful lot of information poor out there. The idea was, if we combine forces, is there a way forward? We thought up the idea of an information ecosystem for SMEs in the creative industries, where the interests of each of those parties is in tension or balance, more positive word, with those of the others. And everyone tolerates the others getting a benefit from it because they get a benefit as well. Each makes a contribution and receives a benefit, as in any ecosystem. We've heard a lot on the benefits and the needs within government. QUT, CCI, particularly with its brief, needs research data, but we also have a role as a trusted third party. We stand out of the industry itself, so businesses aren't giving their very, very confidential data to either the government or to someone in the industry to analyse. In that respect, we are separate from the marketplace. The businesses contribute their confidential business data, they receive benchmarking reports. The government, very, very key role because they have a relationship with the businesses. They run and drive the participation program. Doesn't mean a thing if I, as a researcher, ring up a business and say, please complete the survey. But for Lindy's team to say, we're running this HEAT program and really we need you to give us your data before, during and after so that we can make it better and keep programs going. That sort of participation program, critical. And developing the frameworks, the listings of the businesses that you need to get statistical quality, as well as the marketing aspects. And of course, the government, like QUT, has put considerable funds into the project, most of which have gone into technical development. Okay, so if we had an information ecology, what was the strategy? Really looking at the social web, the Creative Commons Web 2.0 lessons that are out there. How do you start up the virtuous cycles of information being able to be contributed and getting benefits back, and more people doing it and providing better and better data? Some of the ideas and the difficulties we had to overcome is longitudinal data is classically difficult to do. But we wanted to do this not as repeating the same survey, but doing it as incremental data. Only give us the data that has changed, we keep the other ones. But how do you do that and keep data confidential? Because most academic surveys are on the basis of anonymous. But you can't do anonymous if you're doing benchmarker. So everything has to be essentially masked data. The identity is suppressed, but there are very strong technical links there that allows us to keep trust, keep confidential stuff confidential, but still provide personalised benchmark reports that are explicitly to that firm that has contributed the data. So, as I covered, as I said, it can't be anonymous, it's benchmarking. We want to do changes, track changes as they may go through. One of the ways we did this is we collect profile information about the businesses both in our business registry but also in the web pages that the businesses complete before they go and do the web data gathering, and that characterises the business, so we don't have to ask questions explicitly about that in the surveys. And if we can meet the information needs then of the businesses, then we're along the way of meeting the business, the needs of the partners such as the government in there. As I mentioned before, CCI is that trusted third party. We're not alone in this. There's a couple of good examples we've come. The closest I can think of is a brilliant site called Patients Like Me. It's medical informatics. And yes, the participants are actually identified, so in that respect it's different. But it's got that balance between patients putting very, very detailed medical, social, health information in, and that then being mined by researchers explicitly with permissions and making some real breakthroughs in how you can develop findings very, very quickly because you've got all of this data that is in the pool ready to be analysed for it. It actually changes the way research can be done. We all know about Wikipedia and linked data as a project. Okay, so where have we got to? We've got 344 firms across half a dozen segments that we have surveyed. In the cases of architects, we're now into our fourth wave. We have produced 944 personalised, confidentialised benchmark reports for firms, and that's with 2 QUT part-time staff driving that. So we weren't using InDesign or Excel and Word to do this. We've industrialised the process of gathering the data, producing the analytics and producing the reports, which is the core technical premise behind this was, can we do this with scale? And yes, we can. We just have to get even better than we've been doing for it. And we, as I said, produce benchmark reports. Lindy showed you some of the graphics before. We really like, and the industry likes, these sorts of ones where revenue per employee, a correlation between number of employees and revenue, and where does your firm sit on the line in revenue terms, in profit terms, whatever else. Without a context though, what the business's objectives are, that doesn't mean much, so each business will interpret that differently. Profitability. Okay, participation rates. This is, I think, as Lindy alluded to, the difference. In 2004, we tried to do an economic impact survey. We spent a lot of money and we rang, it feels like, every business in Brisbane trying to get economic data. We got 7% response rate. We've been getting in the high economic impact as an individual firm, larger size of firms, we're getting response rates 50, 60% participation rates. This is unheard of. At the sole practitioner firm, we're getting 13, 14, 15%. And that doesn't worry me at all because we know how many there are and their results can be scaled up because there's little variability. But once you get above firms with 5 or 6 employees, you get great variability in profitability, turnover, all sorts of other things.